No offense to Marvel or anything, I'm a huge Marvel fan, but what happens, like, in usually when there's an element of sci-fi involved, the problem, the complication in the plot of the movie is this higher thing, which is, you know, not really like a layman problem, like not a relatable problem for a lot of us. It's like saving the world or something like that. But in this movie, firstly, I mean, of course, the entire genre, the aspect of multiverse and the decisions you make, that was the, you know, the point which, you know, got to me. But what made me absolutely love this film was that how it, in spite of having this sci-fi element, this unrelatable fictional thing, the problem is still relatable because it has the human emotion and the human element to it.
What exactly prompted you to watch the movie?
A lot of abstract members have put it in their Instagram stories that this movie is so good, blah blah blah. And then the poster of the movie is amazing. I just loved it. I'm like, this is something new. I have to watch it. And then I went and researched about the movie, what it exactly is about. Then somewhere it said multiverse, and I was like, nahi, ye mere se nahi dekhna hoga, because वो multiverse वगैरह में Marvel DC बिल्कुल नहीं जमता है मेरे को. But then I saw the genre of the movie and it had everything, you know, comedy, drama, emotions, everything everywhere. And then I just went for it and I loved it.
There is this joke that goes around in abstract room where, you know, one of the members, he just went into the group and said, can anyone share everything everywhere all at once? There was a whole, you know, meme thread over it. Later on, I think the Oscars were, you know, a push. Okay, this movie is actually worth watching. Just go and watch.
Yeah, in my case, actually, I kept hearing about it. Like, it was one of those movies like you could not escape. I was not one of those, like, you know, who went and watched it the first time I heard it. It wasn't like, you know, a stellar or whatever, like the star cast. It's not an Avenger or something. So, like, you know, the marketing was not like that. So, you know, these movies generally do not sort of, you know, come in your top 2 list, you know, when you're planning your weekend. So I remember like this one weekend in September, that's when I watched it the first time. Literally there was nothing good that day, and I went with no expectation. And I heard a lot, and I, like, you know, people talk about, like, you know, artsy movies and they tend to sort of overhype it, and I had that kind of expectation that, okay, at least I'll have like good 3 hours. If not, I'll just go and sleep, kind of. That my bar was really low. But man, that movie blown my mind, literally. Like, you know, that was, it was amazing. And from the get-go, it was like 2.5 hours glued to the screen. You know, you couldn't just take your eyes off.
So well, I watched it because the first time I heard about it was from my friend living in Mexico. He watched it and he was like just going about it in the group. Guys, please watch this movie when it comes out, because in Italy it was still not out. It still had 2 weeks to go or to the release. But then I had a trip planned to India. One thing I wrote down was like, okay, I need to watch this movie in English when I'm in India. But yeah, I watched it and I loved it.
So I'm going to brag about it a little. So before it released in India, I had got the opportunity to watch it way long back before its official release in India. Because if I remember it correctly, Doctor Strange had released somewhere around May or June or something.
Right.
And exactly 2 weeks later, this movie was released outside of India. So all the critiques and everybody was calling this the real multiverse of madness, actually. So I was very intrigued. I'm like, what is this that is like, it's not here? Why is everybody talking about it? And then Torrent Zindabad, with amazing 1080 pixel quality, I downloaded it and I watched it on TV in my house.
Actually, before it released in theaters, वो किसी फिल्म फेस्टिवल में प्ले हो रही थी. ओके, जब फेस्टिवल में प्ले हो रही थी ना, तो एकदम से पूरा चैट भर गया था, क्योंकि सब लोग बोल रहे थे कोई एक ऐसी फिल्म आई है जो लेटर बॉक्स में हाईएस्ट रेटेड फिल्म ऑफ ऑल टाइम हो गई है, सरपासिंग पैरासाइट, क्योंकि पैरासाइट पिछले 2 साल से हाईएस्ट रेटेड फिल्म थी. ओके, तो सबको वही बेचता. और मैंने वहां पे जाके देखा, उसको सिर्फ 4,000-5,000 लोगों ने लॉक किए हुए थे. तो आई वाज लाइक कि ठीक है, ये फिल्म कम्युनिटी वाले वो है, फिल्म फेस्टिवल जाने वाले हैं, तो ऑब्वियसली फिल्म फेस्टिवल ऑडियंस और मास ऑडियंस अलग होती है. तो जब ये मास मतलब सब लोग देखेंगे तो उसकी रेटिंग कम हो जाएगी. और फिर ये रिलीज हुई अमेरिका में विद लाइक डॉक्टर स्ट्रेंज के थोड़ा ही बाद में, एंड एवरीवन वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट दिस इंस्टेड ऑफ डॉक्टर स्ट्रेंज। तब ऐसा लगा कि ओके कुछ तो लाइक है इसमें। फिर आफ्टर 2 months यहाँ पे रिलीज हुई, देन आई वॉच्ड एंड इट वाज एवरीथिंग एवरीवेयर ऑल एट वंस प्लस मोर।
A main stream of the movie, it talks about the choices you make. Because the entire multiverse jumping from here to there, people who have watched the movie, they know that it depends on the decisions you make. So, was this a reflection of the modern day society, or did it have any metaphor in it? Did you try to figure out any sort of layer which was there?
Every decision that you make is entirely based on the decisions that you have made, is what is leading your life to whatever you're doing at this point in your life. You technically live in a alternate reality every day in your life. Everything, every basic thing also you do know every day in a normal situation. Should I go here? Should I go there? You're already counting it on yourself in the head. What am I supposed to go to do next? Like if I do this, this will happen. If I do that, this will happen. So technically you make decisions every day that are coincidentally coinciding with your thoughts every day, because the more you think about things, the more it's based on your decisions. So your everyday life depends on the decisions that you're making every day. So this little decisions that you're trying to make is leading to basically stepping stones to do whatever you want to do in life greater ahead. So why decisions are important in this aspect is because we saw in every kind of reality, like what decision she took led into her being an actress, or being a basic person who is just doing taxes with someone, or just living a life with her father or something. And then the Butterfingers, or I don't know what to call it exactly, reality where she's having an entirely different love scenario with somebody else. So basic decisions that she could have taken, like for example, I don't know how many you have watched it or not, but there's a show called as Loki. It also kind of technically talks about the branched reality kind of a thing. Like if you take a wrong decision, there is an entire set of policemen, to explain it very clearly, that will stop you from doing that. Like it's a linear course of life that you are supposed to follow. If you choose another thing, like for example, you have to take a right every day because you choose that road to walk on. But if that one day you chose to take a left, that's where everything changes.
The premise of the movie, like, the choices you make and it opens a new door or branch out. Like, I think it wasn't precisely new because, it like many novels in past, like, in which I've read, sort of talked about it. For me, the strength of the movie sort of is in those human moments. And it's exactly like this, like, like every time you watch the movie, like the reason I specifically remember this movie, and I'm going to remember this movie for a really long time, is because the level of layering is there in the emotions. I had a moment when I realized that, this is a perfect explanation of how the daughter is trying to reach out. She's not able to see beyond the dystopian world, because there's this moment where she tells her mother that, everything is eventually going to go bad. Like, what's the point? There's this epic scene, like, in front of the beagle, like what's the point? Why do you want to do it? Like, it's going to end up like this. So and the mother is trying to bring her back, like give her hope, or trying to change the perspective. And so these kind of layerings, and this is one specific, like, moment that stood out for me. And the other one was, of course, the scene, that epic scene, which was husband. He says that, I'm just trying to do what is right, and I don't know, and I can't make sense of the world, but I'm just trying to do what is right. And it was such a beautiful scene. And these are the kind of layers, which sort of, every time you watch the movie, every time you sort of see that story, it clicks, like, okay, this is what they're trying to say. And that's where, the strength of the movie was, like, for me, I mean, it really amazed me how, like, I specifically remember that scene where both of them are actually rocks, and there's this whole dialogue. There's so much humanity. I mean, they are rocks, but then there's so much humanity in that conversation. So I think, so for me, it was more like, even though, it sort of presents itself as a sci-fi, or like, very, a complex plot to make a movie on, sort of a multiverse theme. But the actual strength of the movie, the focus is totally humanity, like, you know, how human emotions work and how people perceive and stuff like that.
I watched the movie both the times in theaters, and that entire sequence of rocks, it's almost a 5 minute length. It's a lengthy sequence, and it doesn't have any dialogue. It almost doesn't have any sound.
Yeah.
The entire theater, both the times I found, and both were packed theaters. It was not an empty theater anytime. Both were packed theaters. And everyone was focused like this, reading the subtitles, reading, so engrossed by silence, so engrossed by the emotions that scene conveyed. It made me realize that day that, you know, sometimes even without saying anything, you can say everything everywhere all at once, maybe.
For me, the movie, really, it could, really decipher what Gen Z is. Because, these days it is very hard to, show these people something that could, that they can connect with on an emotional level. Because they are so disconnected from the reality, I feel. But, this movie particularly, it could, comprehend with what these guys could feel, what us, what, people like you and me who are there in the session today, how we connect to movies. So, I think this movie was a bridge between, these different type of people. And that is also very hard to achieve, because I don't think there is any other movie, that can do this for all kind of people. I think it was a movie which was for, everyone. There are people here who do not like sci-fi to the least, but still, all these people also, they felt very connected to the movie, because it wasn't just one genre. It was literally everything everywhere all at once. If you can't connect with one thing, you would absolutely connect with the another thing that they are showing. I think that is what, stayed with me a lot about the movie. And irrespective of all of this, also, I think the movie had a very good take on, how to show the emotional depthness of things that are there at this, stage with everyone, especially how things have turned out in the past 2 to 3 years, how everything has changed. I think this movie, really signified that the change that you have been through, there is much more than that, that can happen and that will happen. So I think, obviously, the scene where, Waymond just goes on and is talking about kindness, or, basically any dialogue which has Waymond in it. I think it was filled with so much love. I think that was also, this is the kind of time where it was required a lot as well.
What I really loved about that movie was, so I had just watched Multiverse of Madness a few weeks before I went to see this movie in the theaters. And I'm like, no offense to Marvel or anything, I'm a huge Marvel fan. But what happens, like, in usually when there's an element of sci-fi involved, the problem, the complication in the plot of the movie is this higher thing, which is, not really like a layman problem, like not a relatable problem for a lot of us. It's like saving the world or something like that. But in this movie, firstly, I mean, of course, the entire genre, the aspect of multiverse and the decisions you make, that was the, the point which, got to me. But what made me absolutely love this film was that how it, in spite of having this sci-fi element, this unrelatable fictional thing, the problem is still relatable because it has the human emotion and the human element to it. And I loved how they show the daughters, if I can say, a quarter life crisis, with with the emotions that she faces and the way she reacts to it, and how it transcends through the multiverse.
I have like a slightly different take. So for me, the movie was not about choices at all, but kind of close. For me, it was how do we process our freedom and our choice. So all of us have the freedom to choose, but that freedom can be very dizzying, and that freedom can be paralyzing also. And when you're not empowered to see freedom as freedom, and or when you're not supported by your parents or by people you look up to, you can't see freedom. And even when you do see freedom, you only imagine a catastrophic end. When the daughter sees all possibilities and only realizes that all this only leads to more chaos, it is kind of reflective of the fact that she didn't know what to do with her freedom. She was not given the environment to interpret that freedom. The mother, however, doesn't realize that she has a choice. She could not believe in herself. Last scene, may we also get to see how the father was always trying to shove his choices down her throat, and trying to please her father was very important to her. And so even she lived in a reality where she did whatever was possible and feasible, but she never dared to imagine better. She never thought of upgrading her life or imagining her various possibilities. So for me, it was what what kind of an environment does anybody need to grapple with the gift of freedom that we all have? How can we make a choice? And it was extremely, the bagel scene was the best, where she said she put all her life's possibilities on a bagel. Ek to it gave me major binge eating discourse vibes. Secondly, when you put everything on a bagel, you make everything as inconsequential as a bite, as inconsequential as one meal, and you basically are consuming all your possibilities, and you're deeming all those multi lives that you could have and saying iska matlab it's futile, it's absolutely futile. And that's what made me realize that every person has a different take on freedom. The father's take on choice is that he's always placed kindness in the center, and he's the only one जो एक value लेके चल रहा है. He has that, his life, his take on choice and freedom and everything is very conscious because love is in the center of it. So that really felt great. And I think his wife was missing that piece. What is in the center of my decisions? She was in a limbo, making choices over choices, but kuch center value nahi tha. And I think in the end, she found it.
Because Shreya brought in the bagel. So we see two very important things which plays a very major role in the movie, except than the living characters. One was the bagel and the other was the googly eyes. How were these two used in the movies? What were the significance? Yeah.
So me being a science enthusiast, the very first thing I thought when I saw the bagel was, "Ye black hole. This sucks everything in. This is the black hole." Like obvious choice. And the googly eyes, they seemed like black hole ka other counterpart, white hole, which ejects matter. So that was my very first interpretation of that. And apart from that, there's also this toroidal theory of the universe. Ki our entire universe is on a donut or a bagel or whatever. So I also felt like a lot of the inspiration was taken from that theory as well. And ek aur video mein, which one had shared, which basically said that the bagel and the googly eyes are basically the opposite, because bagel is black with white in center and googly eyes is white with black in center, which also felt like it was a somewhat inspired version of the yin yang symbol, which is there in Taoism. So I think a lot of inspiration was taken from spirituality and religion across the world. You have death, you have some bad things, but inside them there is also some sort of relief in it, some sort of I don't know the right word for it, but liberation or something like that. But if you want to side with the good, you also have to carry a little bit of bad with you as well.
The main significance of everything being like on top of that bagel is because so bagel basic shape references is like a circle. So everything comes around the circle, whatever you give, whatever it comes back to you, and all of that situation. So everything is all in the center of the universe. So are you. and everything also technically revolves around you, but along with you. So that is how you see or perceive life as well, because how everything is based on your decisions, because you are the king, queen of your world, because everything according to you revolves around you. That's not the same with anybody else. Like their world revolves around themselves. If you are not a people person, then it's up to you. I don't understand that how it's not possible, but otherwise, yeah, your world revolves around you 100%. And the googly eyes thing is that how you have your sixth sense. You basically only get to evolve it after a certain point in your life. You don't always use it that much because you don't want to, you don't have to. But then when you kind of have to start sensing it, you have to start understanding things in another perspective. So for me, the googly eyes are a third perspective that you take on yourself.
I'd like to add another prompt to it. Throughout the movie, with which character did you happen to perceive the journey? Was it Evelyn? Was it Waymond? Was it Jobu, or was it anyone else?
I will divide it into three sections as it was in the movie, everything, everywhere, all at once. So first will be the googly eyes. So it was about the parallel universes. So female protagonist, Evelyn, was concerned with her only works, means daily course, everything. She was confined to that zone. But when the thing exploded, that there was multiple universe kind of thing, her eyes opened. So it was kind of foreshadowing by the director from the very first scene in the laundry bags everywhere, that there are more perspective than you, means than what you see. So I can say it, she came out from the well of her confined workspace, and then she explored everything. So it was everything and everywhere. She saw all the perspective. And now all at once, I would like to go to that bagel thing. So eyes have multiple dimensions to it, but the bagel thing that wanted was to, means what to say, to attract to it, means the power to attract to it. So it has only one objective, that I will suck everything to myself, and there will be only one force, that is the Jobu Tobaki, that she was the prime superior thing and nothing else matter. So the everything everywhere bagel comes to the scene. So it was all at once. So I would like to tell about that way. The one character I connected with is might be sounding means awkward or everything, but it was Jobu Tubaki, because from antagonist I saw the whole thing, means how she changed herself throughout the journey. It was and her character was very much quirky, and how she came with the samurai pose with the two if I could say dildo thing in her hand, and the pose that was I mean I the whole hall was laughing, but yet we cannot control ourselves. So I connected with Jobu Tubaki.
First, the bagel thing. I understand the point that it's something that represents that everything revolves around you. I am like 50% believer of that, but also like, how are two worlds attracting the same thing? If Evelyn and this is also Evelyn and Jobu are both getting attracted to the same thing, so that was where it was very confusing for me. I find the bagel as more turning towards yourself kind of a view. And I could relate the most with Waymond because he's such a good energy. It's just like I'm more of a easygoing person, and he was easygoing and finding the simplicity in the worst possible situations, and that's what I found very, very relaxing, and everything everywhere all at once. It was just literally that way, and only that person I found very. And you must have some people like that in your life.
So my favorite character with whom I took the journey was Jobu. I am in love with villains every time, any movie, anything, anywhere. I get sad when the villain dies, not when the hero wins. I hate that. After a good amount of period, in the movie I realized that the whole point of them not showing who Jobu is, because we already have been introduced to the character and we know who it is. And then when it's revealed that it's her daughter itself, and the way the whole journey takes on from that point when we get to reveal, we know who the identity is, because after that point she tries to show everybody how her powers work. Like within every split second, she can transform, change, do whatever she wants to, get whatever she wants and everything. And it's been a beautiful transition the entire period. So the journey that we take with her is because, and why I took it with her very specifically is because that is, as we just I guess Vanshita mentioned, the Gen Z story. So this is what we relate to, yeah. Okay, how our parents are perceiving our decisions, how we are taking into the decisions these days with respect to what we feel about it and not what they feel about our decisions. That was one of the reasons why I related the entire journey with her as well as Raymond, because the power person, man, very sweet, cute, basic person. I love being able to bring out the best in other people, and that's what he did. That's what his superpower was technically. Okay? Doing everything possible so that everybody around him can be happy and have a very basic, normal, even if it's hampering his own peace and everything, that's okay. He wants to be able to give an opportunity to other people to have a better life than his. So that is what I loved about both these characters. So, yeah.
I didn't look at the film in terms of characters. Matlab, not so deeply in terms of characters. I didn't want to see it like that. I looked at it from the perspective of the bond that Jobu and her mother has. And look, she has two names, right? And that was the most interesting thing. So the way your relationship with your mother or your primary caregiver informs you of how the world is. And we noticed that in all the multiverses, the one thing that doesn't change is the parental bond or the expectation from the mother that she has, and the mother's expectation ki my child should be close to me. I think the movie is slightly more from the perspective of Jobu, because it's all her, because all the possibilities included her looking for her mother. um, it took so many iterations for her to find a mother that will stand with her and talk to her, because in every other version the mother was very ambitious into her own thing, and there is not even a mention of the daughter in these sequences. Very slight mentions. So she also says that I have been searching for you, and I've been searching for this iteration of reality. And so it really like puts so much light on this perspective ki it was on the basis of her equation with her mother that the reality was shifting, that her level of pessimism, that her level of what is a good world, what can the end of any world be. So I just kept seeing that this was a repetitive pattern, that this bond was there in all realities. And although that's confusing, because if the bond, if there are multiple realities, then there should be multiple variations of the bond. It shouldn't be central, like there shouldn't be any centrality at all, but there was. So that just makes me realize that reality is so dependent on what we use to orient ourselves with. um, as a psychologist, I understand how important love and care from your primary caregiver is. So अगर वो नहीं होता है या वो थोड़ा सा restrictive होता है, the way you view reality completely shifts and it can completely shatter. So I think that is what I viewed everything through, just that bond as a character itself, because that bond was unbreakable throughout all realities.
I just wanted to add because since no one mentioned, and this is not my view, I just watched the video on YouTube that one had shared on the Telegram, and I want to share because it was beautiful the meaning behind bagel and the googly eyes, because it said how like bagel was something that took life because it was something Jobu Tupaki wanted to use to escape from everything. Meanwhile, googly eyes was something that gave life. Like everywhere women put the eyes, it gave life. And even in the end, Evelyn, when puts the googly eye on her forehead, she's like in a whole new dimension, in new avatar. So it gives life, and I think it was beautiful. And regarding the other question of connecting to the character, I don't know if I'm not sure I can pick one, but since it's an immigrant family story, it's an Asian family in America, so I think I could relate to maybe every character, like in some aspects, like how maybe Evelyn wants to, prove something to her father, and then there is Jobu, who's like a different generation who cannot accept just what her mother wants and he wants to escape some of it, or and so it was just let's say it's difficult to pick the character, but I would pick the family, the whole family.
Every time I've seen it, I've related to a different character. It was Joy first, I think the first time I saw it. And this time when I saw it, I feel it was Evelyn. Primarily because the entire thing that she goes through, where she kind of reflects on all the choices that she could have had. And I believe that like the entire movie is telling us that life is always broken down into like branches and sub branches. And when you take a particular branch, it can like lead you anywhere and into thousands of other possibilities. Right?
I primarily saw the film from a mother-daughter relationship. Primarily, I was seeing them the real surge of affection and love between Jobu and her mother, especially where both of them are deficit somewhere, and like both of them are lagging in some part or the other, but they are like trying to build up a bridge. At least Jobu is trying, and the movie in the journey builds up the bridge, I believe. And at the end, they collapse together. That the beautiful scene and all. Any particular symbolism or any particular metaphor which you found across the movie, like which stayed with you, or you can talk about your favorite sequence, maybe.
Obviously, the rock scene, no mentioning that. Okay, that just goes without saying. Besides that, the scene that really stayed with me was where I think it was an important scene in the movie as well, where Waymond is talking to everyone around the end, and he's like, "Hey, I know you all are scared and confused, and so am I. But I know the only thing that everybody needs is kindness. So the only thing that I know how to do right is to be kind." I think that said a lot to me, about the film, about life in general, and that is something that I'm always going to carry forward with me.
So it's not a specific scene or a sequence. It's basically how they implemented the multiverse travel. So in most multiverse travel movies, you have a device, a gizmo, contraption, whatever, and it directly takes you to your destination, right? Here, I really like the implementation by which it's more of transferring your consciousness to a different body. Instead of you physically going there, your consciousness is transferred to your presence in that multiverse. So in a sense, and especially those shots where Evelyn is caught in between two multiverses. In one multiverse, she is a movie star. She doesn't want to leave it, but she has to deal with things here. And बहुत जगह ऐसे दिखाया है कि you are Evelyn is halfway between those 2 points. So that I think was really beautiful to see.
If there are people in the house who have done their majors or who have remotely even studied computer science, kabhi bhi apne pure academic careers mein, so there is this thing in programming which is called an if-else statement. For that entire movie, I felt that really the entire movie was based on if-else statements. Like if this, else this, if this. Like there are branches all together happening on what you decided, what you thought, what your conscious and what your choices were.
There is always a screen shift when there's like a amazing fight sequence about to happen. Like it just shortens it up a little, and then you can very clearly see what is exactly happening. So those kind of stylistic elements that movies use, because to grab your attention to one specific portion, because if it's elongated to the entire screen, cannot really focus on whatever is happening at that point. And it's a very comical situation, that like a comic book style fight sequence that is happening. And apart from that, so and not a monologue, it's a montage, and she's training, and then she's training her little finger also, and that also has like abs and muscles and stuff. Beautiful.
End sequence where the mother and daughter conversation happens, and eventually the film ends with like it's not a perfect world, but people find acceptance. I also could see the generational difference. I guess it's more like a millennials will see Evelyn differently compared to maybe like generations that came after that. There is this generation who coexisted with older traditions, and then they have to accept the ways of the generation that came after. And there is a struggle, like while they have to compromise there, and now they have to compromise here. And you could see some of that, like the processing happening towards the end in the movie. So that was also very beautiful, and that stayed with me.
I just also want to point out like how in the dimension where Evelyn is a popular actress and women, there is also dialogue where women said something about Evelyn's father, how he thought he was too nice, and he then says that I see good, I see good in things, and it's not because I'm naive, but it's strategic and necessary, and that's how he survived through things. And that was like beautiful, and it goes a little, I think it went under notice because of the dialogue that follows, of course, that is also beautiful, of doing laundry and taxes together. And just another thing I wanted to add was like the sequence when Evelyn saying, "Stop calling me Evelyn, I'm your mother." I mean, visually it's beautiful when they fight among different dimensions. And then there is just after that, Joy is like running out of the laundromat, and she screams, "Can you please just stop?" And the way I think Stephanie Su like said that dialogue, it's like really powerful. Like every time I get chills. Like I have seen that scene like many times, and every time it never fails to like bring chills. And just the way she screams, "Can you please just stop?" Like just amazing.
How the film opens, there's the shot of the mirror shot. They are shown happy in the mirror. So from the very beginning, they show that there is a there is a surreal kind of thing. You are going to see a non-real world. Means you are not into reality. I am taking you to another world. This is the mirror, and they are happy. And then there is a cut, and then the mirror is empty, and then we move on to their mundane routine of laundry and taxes and everything. So I was every time everyone spoke that the film is beautifully edited, I asked them why it is beautifully edited. But after seeing this film, I can say it is beautifully edited and why it is. So that is the beauty of this film.
And another favorite thing of mine was when they said that every rejection, every disappointment has led you here to this moment. It's so on point. Like so many times in your life, you are just like, अगर मैं वो subject ले लेती, अगर मैं उस इंसान को उस time मिल लेती, what then? Or you were, oh, had I stayed there one more hour, there would have been something else. Or anything, different stream, different place, everything would just make up to something else. And that is so beautiful in itself. And that is what I loved in the movie, that you are exploring every side of what you were, तुम कहाँ हो सकते थे, but then you are brought back कि तुम इधर ही हो. and this is what you have to face, kind of.
So one of the scenes that I loved the most is a kind of continuation of what Aditi mentioned just now. So there is one dialogue where Raymond justifies why this version of Evelyn was selected, and he said that you are capable of everything because you are so bad at everything. So that was one of the like I felt like it spoke to me because that is a very fresh outlook towards failures. Like everyone sees that as closing of doors, but he kind of made it as a point that just because this one option is not there, there are so many other options that have opened up. So, and there was like, I don't remember the name of the movie, but there was one dialogue that a confused disciple was saying to his master that, I don't know what will happen tomorrow. And the master says that, how exciting is that? Like, because like you don't know what is going to happen, there is an endless possibility of what is going to happen because you are not so narrow minded about what you want to do, and you are just open to the universe. And one another reason that I loved the laundry and Texas scene was because that you know even like that scene was in the life where that Evelyn considered was like one of her most successful after I guess the Kung Fu Universe one where she learns the everything. And still in that scene, he says that, in another life, I would just like doing these things with you. And that universe, which was actually there with her, she was considering that universe as a complete failure. But we see that in a more successful version of that universe, she was looking up to this version, which she was presently not considering good. So, like, that was one of very good realizations that I had. There was one line that we are all useless alone. So that was one of the very beautiful line, which also reminded me of Into the Wild ending, that happiness is real only when shared. Because like there was all type of things and genres in this movie. Like there was fighting and there was verse jumping and everything. But only if there is only one single thing that can save you from all this madness, that is love. So that was like a major takeaway from me, and also like the sources that were provided in the group. So this multiverse ka thing was compared with the internet ka generation that we are growing up in today. So like it was compared with like the multiple tabs that are open in our Google Chrome right now, but like every like one thing that can save you from everything is people and their love and care.
My other favorite dialogue would be like when Evelyn asks that what is truth, and Jobu replies nothing matters. I mean what a way to like summarize two very universal things. And like just like Heer said, that that she was so happy that at the end, like love was able to conquer the bridges, the gaps between. It reminded me of Tuesdays with Maury, like that very famous line. Yeah, it could not, I could not help get reminded, like when it happened that, like that between the tension of the pull and forces of the life, which side wins, when the professor student asked, and the professor replies that love wins, like love always wins.
I would like to name it Arth Satya. It could be, means I have another analogy for it. So uh, I believe that all the things that is known, it is half truth, and half truth lies beyond our imagination. So it is half truth for me. And Arth Satya also has a kind of father son relationship, which is also very, what to say, dysfunctional family they too have. So in that analogy also, I think it both connects to that theme. And one more thing I would like to mention about this. So in a interview, one of the German director, I don't can't remember his name, he was saying that our civilization is deprived of modern images. So this everything everywhere all at once gave us those images which we were deprived of. Means the whole montage sequence from the cartoon, from the rock sequence, it was very modern. Means how can I define modern? I will say go watch.
Actually, the dialogue, that exact dialogue in Mandarin, it is written, it says that in the next life, because the directors, they follow they kind of see many of the portions of the movie through a Buddhist philosophy. So they believe there is a certain thing in the Buddhist philosophy which believes in reincarnation also. So that exact Mandarin, the dialogue in Mandarin, it says that in next life. The English subtitles makes it that in another life. So, like even all the memes would just fail if the actual translation would have happened. But we know, like translation doesn't happen that way. It is always more of a expression of the emotions which he is wanting to convey. So makes absolutely sense. Personally speaking, I always like movies which do not preach it on your face. And like they give it what they want to, and they let the viewers or the audience decide what they want to take it. It worked for me for that many reasons as well, because it never preached. It just showed what it wanted to, and it let me lose myself in that universe. One of the main streamlined things which was shown, which kept on occurring as a leitmotif throughout the movie, was that like कि हमको जिंदगी में हमेशा दोबारा मौका नहीं मिलता. We do not always get a second chance in our lives to things. So maybe it takes a multiverse jump. It takes another universe for us to be into, to correct that, to rectify that, to do what we couldn't do in this life, to do what we wanted to do in this life. And maybe our circumstances did not allow, maybe our bindings, maybe our shortcomings, maybe our fallacies, maybe our choices which did not allow us. Maybe in the other universe, we will be allowed to do